Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Political Smackdown. We're glad to have you with us. I'm your host, Wes Westmoreland. We've got 3/4 of our usual crowd with us this week. Andy Dedman, Miss Betsy Wells, and Ronnie Whetstein is joining us today in place of Mike Philbeck. Ronnie, good to have you with us again.
We're always happy to come and join.
Good. Glad to have you with us. Well, this week marked the 250th anniversary of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, the first time any colony formally stated their independence from Great Britain. Granted, there's some speculation that it never actually happened, but may have become confused with the Mecklenburg Resolves that were adopted a few weeks later. Regardless, this remains the date on our state flag and first in freedom on our car tag. When considered with the Tryon Resolves and the Halifax Resolves, which is the other date on our flag, it makes it clear North Carolina was as much of the nation's upcoming catalyst for American independence as was Massachusetts or Pennsylvania, and the first step in the nation's upcoming semi-sesquicentennial, that's hard to say, celebration that will begin next year. Betsy, your ancestors, like mine, were part of this. What are your thoughts on the MECDEC and the upcoming celebration next year on the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding?
Oh, I think it's wonderful, and I think I'll never will forget when Steve and I went through the concentration camp in Dachau in Germany, and as we walked out after seeing all those horrors, there was a quote there that says, "To forget history is for history to repeat itself." And I just think that we need to keep in mind our history. And when I came down here to teach and married Steve, I had no idea about the background of his family. And the land that I live on is land that was gotten by the original John Wells in the land grant from the King of England. And the oldest residence in Cleveland County is the Wells cabin that is right below my house. And John Wells, who was the patriarch, was one of the 49 that walked or rode a horse to Tryon to sign the Tryon Resolves. And they were signed in August the 14th, 1775. And then not too many months after the Resolves there in Mecklenburg. But I think what you talked about, Wes, and I'm glad you brought this up because, this is an important date in our history. And it shows that, and these men that signed these resolves were taking their lives in their own hands because this is treason to the king. And they knew their property could be confiscated, they could be killed, but they had the courage that they felt like that it was time to break away from the tyranny of England and to become an independent nation.
Well, Ronnie, one of my ancestors signed the Tryon Resolves as well, which came after the MECDEC. It was a Hambright, and I'm sure with your background in Kings Mountain, you've known plenty of Hambright descendants. What are your thoughts of this? And by the way, the correct word is semi-quincentennial. I've got to look at it to get it right.
Yeah, that's a tough word to say.
That sounds like a word they'd have at the spelling bee at the national level.
I don't think I'd ever make it to the state level, much less the national. But I think we need to celebrate our history. Seems like the last few years there's been a move to try to hide history that people don't like, but whether we like it or not, it's part of our history. And we need to remember it, like Betsy said, so that we don't repeat it. There's a lot of things in our history I just as soon never see repeated. Mm-hmm. But I think this was a great thing, and I'm proud to say that I was born here in Cleveland County, and I've lived here all my life, and I'm proud to see that North Carolina was one of the beginnings of this country becoming an independent country.
Yeah. Andy, there were several things, the three I mentioned, the Tryon Resolves, which we were part of the old Tryon County, mm-hmm. that were the first to call for troops. Mm-hmm. Halifax, the first to tell our delegates to Philadelphia to call for complete independence, and then the Mecklenburg that actually called for independence a year earlier. What are your thoughts on this and the significance of North Carolina and the founding of the country?
Well, I'm sort of like Ronnie is history, and it bothers me when you see both on both sides of the coin, people want to whitewash it, change it, make it more palatable for their own views. And I firmly believe if you don't study history, it will repeat itself. And I just have a real problem with people that won't have problems with the way history happened. Good, bad, or indifferent, it happened. So study it. It is what it is. Let's just take what we learn and apply it to our future. That's the way I see it. But when you go back and look at this, and especially in our area, we had our usual problems with the crown that everybody else did, but it was even more so with us because we were Protestants that had problems with the Church of England.
Yes.
And that was a real problem had because only marriages that were recognized by the crown were ones that were done in the Church of England. And if it was done by anybody else, you were considered not married, and any of your children that came out of that marriage were considered illegitimate and had no standing. So that created a lot of nightmares on top of that. So everybody had a problem with that. So, and I always thought that was a rather unique set of circumstances that went on that maybe nobody else evidently had a problem with except in our area. So everybody has their own set of issues.
And Wes, I don't think we can leave this question without talking a little bit about the Battle of Kings Mountain on October 7th, 1780. And then the summer stock, the theater, the Kings Mountain Little Theater sponsors the big Revolutionary War drama. It's not Then Conquer We Must. That was the first one they did. This one is
Liberty Mountain.
Liberty Mountain, right? And we hope that people will come, and it will be, and it is a professional company, and it will be done on the weekends in the fall. And please watch for that. And I know we've all seen it, and it's like nice to see over again. But you know, Kings Mountain has this place in history, and what we were talking about with the resolves and what they signed. And I think it's nice for us to talk about it and for the school children to learn about it.
If nobody has ever been to the Liberty Mountain and watched it, it's a story of a Scotch-Irish Presbyterian pastor and his congregation that moved to South Carolina, which is closer to the battlefield maybe than we are. But it shows that story from the beginning to the end and tells the story of Kings Mountain. And the thing that always fascinated me about this thing is when they're talking, there are some people that's loyal to the king, which are loyalists, and then you got the patriots that were fighting for freedom or to withdraw from the English crown. And when they were talking on stage, if you go to listen to it this year, always pay attention to this and see what you don't agree with me, that the loyalists and the patriots, when they were talking about why they wanted to do it, or some of them didn't want to do it and all this stuff, sounds just like the Democrats and the Republicans arguing about over things today.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people don't realize that the Battle of Kings Mountain and Cowpens were a real turning point in the Revolutionary War.
Thomas Jefferson thought so.
It really it was the turning point.
Yeah.
And started the route all the way back to up north.
And the wounded from the Battle of Kings Mountain was carried to this John Wells' second cabin that's in existence today below my house, and that's where they were treated.
Well, I did not know that.
Yes.
That's interesting. The Liberty Mountain was written by Bob Inman, which many of you will remember. And Mr. Inman attends the program every year, not every show. You can find more information about that at libertymountaindrama.com. The other thing that I will mention as we go forward next year into America's 250th celebration, each county in North Carolina has created a committee. You can find more about that and preparations for the celebrations at america250.nc.gov. I hope you'll check that out and find a way to be a part of this celebration. But again, it all started with the MECDEC, then Trine resolves and Halifax resolves. Boston people can say what they want to, but North Carolina was the seed of American independence, and we should all be proud of that. Well, a big event last week was the topping off of the new Justice Center. Commission Chair Kevin Gordon noted in his remarks that the building was on time and on budget, which, Ronnie, that doesn't happen very often with county buildings. That shows a lot of work by you and the other commissioners. A tree, a broom, and an American flag are now the highest points in Shelby. This is a huge building that will include a new jail, sheriff's office, register of deeds office, and courthouse designed to carry the county forward for many decades to come. Andy, you were there. What did you think of the ceremony and of the structure? Is it not amazing?
It is, but boy, it sure was hot. Well, and it really was. I've never gone to one of these before, and it was open to the public. Anybody could just walk up to it. But you really don't appreciate the size of this building till you're standing there looking up, and it is amazing. It's such a big structure here in Cleveland County, and the whole ceremony was something. The construction firm had one of their high-ups that was there and gave a little bit of a history about why an evergreen is hoisted up to the top. And it goes all the way back to the Vikings, and the Shelby Star was there, and we appreciate them allowing us to use their picture. But it goes back to the Vikings who, when they had the tallest beam or whatever for their construction, they would put a evergreen on the top to try to invoke the blessings of their gods down to it. And I had never seen a broom before, and he said, well, I'm not going to jinx it, but it has something it involves safety. Now, I did not go and look it up. I wish I had, but it's something to do with something about safety, and of course, American flag, that speaks to itself. But it was really an interesting thing, and all the people that worked on it were there, and they fed them, and they were able to have, raffles on some gifts that they could have drawings for, and that sort of thing. But it was the most interesting thing about being on time and on budget, that the construction person, he said what made this so unusual is the architectural firm is there on site and has an office right there with the construction firm. And he said, you never see that. Said that has done as much to help us stay on track. If we run into something that does not match up with what we're doing, they're right there and are able to help us. It is a team effort from the beginning, and said that is what has made this work.
His remarks were interesting. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and see what Betsy and Ronnie have to say about it. Welcome back. To follow up on Andy's comments on the topping out, the vast majority of the people, Betsy, at this event were the construction workers. And some even walking in from the site as the ceremony started, which I thought was pretty neat to recognize the workers for the effort they've done to get us this far. And again, on time and on budget. Give us your thoughts on where we are with this project now.
You were talking about the size of it. Last night I was in Shelby and I just drove around the block, and I was at a place where you could see the new construction, and right up there is what was the new courthouse, and the new courthouse is very small when compared.
Oh, yes.
I knew it was big, but last night I really saw how big it was. And I remember back when we were so excited about the present courthouse being open, and it was big, and it was going to last and get us through the next 30, 40 years. Well, it did. And now we just, I don't know, I was so tied up last week with the District 14 convention being in Cleveland County Saturday that I didn't get to the topping. So did they mention when it may be finished? What's the estimation? Does anybody know?
I think substantively next year.
I think they said they thought they could start moving in I think they said next fall that they could start moving in. It would be done enough that they could start moving in to where they could start to do something about tearing down the old courthouse, to where they could start the next phase to build the parking lots and whatever else they were going to do.
Yeah, that's my recollection.
I think that's right.
Did they say how many courtrooms we were going to have?
I don't think
They didn't get into that.
I'm going to
bunch.
defer to former commissioner. Y'all have done so much work for several years to build something that takes us 50 years into the future.
Yes, the building that's there now has been over 50 years.
It
So
is.
if you can get over 50 years in a building, and part of the problem with that building was during the time it was built, it was during the time of fallout shelters.
Right.
And that building is built with all steel and concrete, and because we looked at one time about trying to redo some stuff in there, and you can't. All the places in the basement was all weight bearing walls and steel. I mean, there was no way to extend the life of it. This building that is being built there now is got a lot more open space between the steel. So in the future, a lot of this stuff could be redrawn because things change that you need, and your needs change. That even happens in our homes. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, the people that was there and the workers. Usually these type ceremonies happens even if it's not a government, even if it's a private building. When they have they topping it out. And they usually do that to give all the workers a pat on the back, thank them for working hard and working safely. A building this size is not unusual to have a major accident, and I don't want to jinx any farther on that either. We hopefully the building will completely be finished without any accidents at all. But and when you're talking about the size of this building is somewhere, now I'm working on memory, and I know in the beginning we had one number and then we've tweaked it and changed it. So I may not be exactly right on the exact number, but this building's got somewhere around 380,000 square feet. An acre of land is I think 40,200, and you may know more exactly.
You're hitting it right.
But if you divide that into the square footage of this building, that building is right at 9 acres of floor space.
Wow.
Wow.
And then if you put the roof on top of that, which is, area, it's more than 9 acres of floor space in that building. So they gave them a really good lunch that day. And once they were finished, it was Friday, they let them have the afternoon off, I'm assuming with pay. So although some of those guys may work on footage prices instead of hourly prices, construction does a lot of that.
Well, it was certainly something to see. If you've not been past that, it's worth your time to drive by, and I think I could speak for all of us. Thank you, former commissioner and the current commissioners and everybody that's been a part of this planning project, and to bring this, at least to this point, on time and on budget with proper financing and a way for the county to pay for it, and really carry us into the future. This doesn't happen but once every couple generations. This is significant.
I think we need to give our legislators, even Tim's not there, but he was there during all the financing of this, and Senator Alexander and Representative Hastings, we need to give them a pat on the back, because without their support from the state level, Cleveland County could not afford this size building or this much money.
No, and Cleveland County needed to do something.
We had to. Well, one of the things a lot of people don't know is that why do we need all that? Well, the last several years, every time they came to inspect the jail and the courthouse, they kept telling us, you need more space, you got to have more space. And about the time we got started doing this building, the state came in and took over the ones in Rutherford County, because they did not have a plan to move forward and get it done. So we were sort of under the gun to do it. One of the biggest problems with being a commissioner is we don't get to do everything we want to do. We got to watch the legislature and see if they give us the okay nod before we make moves.
Well, I'm sure the clerk of court appreciate it, because every time the prisoners upstairs would get kind of a bad mood, they'd stop up the commodes and they'd flood down. And
that was a design error in that building.
And I'm sure they appreciate getting them out of there.
Oh yes.
It was a mess anyway,
It was.
if nothing else. We don't have much time, but we're going to try to hit the last question, at least to touch on it. As we're recording on Thursday this week, the big, beautiful bill passed a major hurdle on Sunday as 4 Republicans voted present in committee after voting no only days before. Then late last night, Wednesday, as we record on Thursday, it cleared the final hurdle and is headed to the House floor for a vote today. This is a long way from being passed through reconciliation, which only requires a majority in the Senate. What's good and what's bad in this bill thus far? Ronnie, we don't have but a minute, so hit 1 or 2 points and we'll move on.
Okay, the biggest thing that I'd like to point out in this bill is it's just like every other bill that ever goes through. Some people's going to like it and some don't. Even the Republicans in this one, trying to get them all to agree that this is exactly what we wanted, because different people in different states have different needs. So we have to continue to agree that we got to compromise to make these things happen. So if someone out there don't like anything that's in this bill, then just figure out that, hey, we got what we could, and we tried to make everybody happy so we can get the votes, because you have to have the majority to make any of these bills work.
Andy, how many bills did you ever vote on that you were 100% happy with?
0. But the only thing about this one's good is no tax on tips. That was the one thing I do agree on. I'm glad that part stayed in it.
You know, one takeaway that I had from the long session last night, Betsy, the MAGA account, which gives $1,000 for new babies born over the next few years, which stood for Money Account for Growth and Advancement, an amendment last night changed that to the Trump account. What do you think of this
I
bill?
declare, now
I thought
that
I'd
I
throw
did
you
not
that way.
know. Are you trying to throw me a curveball?
Throwing you a softball.
Of course, all the reason that they have had so much trouble with this bill is that Trump wants to give that 0.5%, those billionaires, permanent tax breaks, and taking it away from the poor people. 8 million recipients could lose Medicaid, cut food stamps, food assistance, and it's going to be an uphill battle, I think, in the Senate. I just hope the senators will at least, and I think that's why there was some Republicans that didn't want to go along with it. No, it's not a good bill. It won't be good for the common American person.
Yeah, the only people that are going to lose Medicaid are the people that don't go to work.
Oh, listen,
Let's move to the lightning round. Andy, what do you have for us today?
Well, the big, wonderful bill has really helped our country. We have Moody's has now dropped our bond rate to AA1. We are now on par with Finland as far as our credit worthiness. Way to go.
Miss Betsy?
oh, I have a good one. Last year, whenever North Elementary School raised, I think it was something like $14,000 for Relay for Life, we commented on them, and so this year they're back. Now, this is a small school. It only has 272 students, and it has a wonderful parent base and teachers. And there's Anna Grace Hughes, who's one of the organizers, and they do things all through the year. They have like contests, and they raise money, and then they do luminaries and things like that. But they raised $12,000 for Relay for Life, and I commend them, and I'm sure you all do too.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And Anna Grace is a fan of the show. And,
Yes, she is.
Quite an individual. We appreciate all of her work and all those students and what they're doing. Ronnie?
All right, we've already talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to encourage everybody to get involved with this. The words we don't want to say. It's hard to say. About our 250th
Semi-quincentennial or something.
Because I think all of us on this board can remember in 1976 when we had the centennial,
Oh, yeah.
we got all really involved with it
Dressed
and,
up.
and had a lot of good
Grew
things going
beards.
on. From what I understand, some of these programs are already beginning to get started. So if you have an interest in being part of the celebrations and working with those to help make those a success, you can call the county county manager's office, and one of the girls there will give you some people, or either call Senator Alexander, because he's pushing this pretty hard in the Senate.
Yeah.
So I think we could make this a really excited thing for next summer.
Yeah, and I think it's going to involve students, and
Yes.
I think it's going to be a great opportunity to teach our history. Well, this week the County Commission unveiled the manager's proposed budget, which is available for public review at the county library and at the administration building. The proposal calls for a 14.25% reduction for those with county fire protection and a 16-cent reduction for everyone else, which is revenue neutral. Let's hope our municipalities do the same thing, Ronnie. And this is just on real estate. Your motor vehicles will see an overall drop in total tax. So thanks to our commissioners and finance department for all the work. I'm sure we'll dive into this a bit more on a future episode of Political Smackdown. Thank you for joining us.